Today we are returning to SmackDown 2, but not quite how you'd expect. We are going to be playing one of the most popular mods for SmackDown 2, and it just improves the game in ways that you cannot believe. As mentioned, this is the Inspired patch, and you'll probably think, wow, this does look like SmackDown 2, but maybe not quite as you'd expect. Of course, we have set up a fatal four-way here with Ken Shamrock, Vader, Bret Hart, and Hulk Hogan, all of whom were not in the original SmackDown 2. However, because of this mod, they've been able to add in these characters. So Ken Shamrock was actually originally going to be in SmackDown 2 to the point where he's even in the game files, but was removed because, well, he was let go from the company. The other characters, though, they've been added in by the modder, and I don't know how they've done this. I don't know if these are like recreated models and retextures and stuff. Judging by the credits in the mod, I'm going to assume that these are created character models just for this mod, and they are incredible. With that being said, I really appreciate the fact that they added in Hulk Hogan, especially. Of course, the mod creator Inspired has a Patreon and all the rest of it. You can actually download the mod in the link in the bio, but you can also go support them on Patreon, and you can see updates to the game, get early access, some of the builds, and you'll get access to a Patreon exclusive character. Now, Hulk Hogan was the Patreon exclusive character in 1.3, but this is patch 1.4, and Diesel is the character who's like the Patreon exclusive character for the 1.4 patch. So it's very cool that they were able to add in Hulk Hogan here because, well, one, you know, rest in peace Hulk Hogan, but also I appreciate that they only have like one character locked behind the paywall per time, and that's really cool. So that's a really fair decision, especially since the patch does get released for free, and basically you're paying to support the modder, but also to gain access to like early builds and special characters and all that, and that's very cool. So this here is playing on the Duck Station emulator. Apparently that is the like best way to play it. I think it's maybe the only way, I'm not really sure, but yeah, Duck Station is the way to go for this specific mod, and it runs really well. I have to say, like, the game does not really hitch in any real way. I mean, we played a season mode of SmackDown 2 on Duck Station, and it really doesn't hitch. The fact that the mod even doesn't hitch is also incredible, to be honest. You'll have noticed as well that I went directly into the match. That was not by choice. This game does not, or sorry, this patch, sorry, does not have, or mod, I guess, does not have entrances for these characters. These characters don't have entrances. The reason being, Inspired, the mod creator, just doesn't use entrances and doesn't want to add them in. And you know what? Fair play. I'd imagine it's probably quite the pain in the ass to mod in all this content. And we're scratching the surface here. You're looking at the game thinking, you know, okay, they're just modding a bunch of characters, what of it? But no. There is so much under the hood that we haven't even discussed. Alright, that match ended a little bit prematurely, but congratulations to Vader for getting the win. I was going to talk about the game, but that's fine. This is a perfect opportunity to start talking about the game. This is going to start feeling like one of those retrospective videos that I do, but we're going to really quickly go for this. They have added in so many characters in this roster that it takes a long time to get from top to bottom, so we're just going to really quickly go through a whole bunch of new characters. Actually, before we even get there, there's actually a whole bunch of additions they've done to the existing characters before we even get to the new guys. So first off, The Rock has his SmackDown 1 attire. The Undertaker also has SmackDown 1 attire. Triple H has SmackDown head, torso, and tights, so I guess essentially just the model from SmackDown 1. Road Dogg has a SmackDown 1 head. Chris Jericho has SmackDown 1 head, but also the prototype debut hair, which is interesting. So he must have pulled that from the prototype version of the game. Chris Benoit has darker black textures. I'm guessing that the original textures on the character models weren't as dark. Eddie Guerrero has also been adjusted to have long hair and cleaned up textures. Dean Malenko also has darker black textures and their wrist tape. Perry Saturn also has pink trunks, fist tape, and darker black textures. The Good Father has been converted to the Godfather. Grandmaster Sexy has been converted to Brian Christopher from Too Much. Scotty 2 Hotty also been adjusted to Scott Taylor from Too Much. Edge has been adjusted to his SmackDown 1 attire. Bradshaw's been adjusted to have a less pale texture. He's very pale in the original game. They've changed that in this one. Test has been adjusted to have a SmackDown 1 attire. Albert has been adjusted to be Prince Albert with a black singlet. Ken Shamrock has been added back into the game with his name and all the rest of it, and he's been given his SmackDown 1 attire. Val Venus is given his SmackDown 1 attire. Al Snow has also been given his SmackDown 1 attire. Steve Blackman has been given darker black textures. Again, I presume that's to reduce artifacting on the texture. Issa Rios has been converted to Goldust. Chyna has been given her SmackDown 1 attire. Tori has been converted to Meat. Ivory has been converted to Vader. Jacqueline has been converted to Dr. Death, Steve Williams, by God. By God. Trish Stratus has been converted to Raven. The Cat has been converted to K-Quick. Of course, we now know him as R-Truth. Lita has been converted to Jerry the King Lawler. Vince McMahon has been converted to Midian. Shane McMahon has been converted to William Regal. Stephanie McMahon has been converted to the British Bulldog. Michael Cole has now become the Blue Meanie. Bill Buchanan has now become Draws. Taka Michinoku is now Dan Severn. Funaki has been modded to become Mark Merrill. Pat Patterson has been converted to Owen Hart. Gerald Briscoe has now become Jeff Jarrett. Shawn Michaels has a cleaned up head texture. I think that's very cool because his necklace never quite aligned in the original game. So it's very cool that they've been able to adjust that texture to make it a bit more reasonable. Mick Foley has been converted to Sergeant Slaughter. Cactus Jack has been converted to Bret Hart, who we saw in that opening match. Stephen Richards has been converted to Stevie Richards, which is the pre-right to censor version of him. Deborah has been converted to Bart Gunn. And now we technically get to some of the new characters, right? So the new characters here are... Some of the unknowns have been replaced with some of the characters who have already been replaced. So one unknown is Vince McMahon, another unknown is Shane McMahon, another unknown is Earl Hebner, and another unknown is Andre the Giant. Average has become Michael Cole, and then we get to some of the really new people. The unknown A has now become Ric Flair. Unknown B is Kevin Nash. Of course, as mentioned, Kevin Nash is a Patreon exclusive, so they're not available in this build. Unknown C is Scott Hall. Unknown D is Goldberg. Unknown E is Sting. Unknown F is Hollywood Hulk Hogan. Unknown H is Jumbo Tsuruta. Sorry if I mispronounced that. That's cool. Yeah, New Japan or some kind of Japanese character. Unknown I has become Shinya Hashimoto. Unknown J has become the Great Sasuke. Unknown K has become DDP. Unknown M has now become the Great Muta. Unknown N is now Antonio Inoki. I'm very sorry if I pronounce this wrong, but Unknown O has just become Ogawa. Let's just say Ogawa, sorry. Unknown P has become Masahiro Chono. Unknown Q has become Toshiaki Kawada. Unknown R is now Sid Vicious. Unknown S is Mitsuhara Misawa. Unknown T has become Hayabusa. Unknown U is now the Great Nita. Unknown V is Tatsumi Fujinami. Unknown W is now Kenta Kobashi. Unknown X is Rob Van Dam. And Unknown Y is Hulk Hogan, but it doesn't end there. There are even more new characters. Also available is Bob Backlund, Tenryu, Jinsei Shinzaki, Kodo, I don't know how to pronounce that, Fuyuki, Riki Choshu, Stan Hansen, famously blind, Atushi Onita, Michael Hayes, Mosh, and Thrasher. There are absolutely no doubt that I've absolutely slaughtered every single Japanese name that was in there because I don't know how to pronounce them. But I think that alone goes to show how insane this mod is, the fact that they're able to add in all these different characters. I mean, it is a bit of a shame that they have to remove all the women characters from the roster to essentially accommodate all this, but I can understand that maybe they are lesser played, and you can always go back to the standard game, I guess, if you really want to play as them. Maybe there should be a mod to add in more women. And again, with all of the modded characters in, so people like Goldust, for example, they have their height and weight this patch. In 1.3, apparently they didn't have that before, but now they do. So Goldust will now say 6'6". I didn't realize he was that, or 6'06". I mean, that's still pretty big. And if we go to Dr. Death again, 6'1", 6'01". I'm not sure how to read that, but essentially their heights and weights are now accurate. The only exception to that rule are these characters here, DDP, Sasuke, Hogan. I think these are added in as as create characters as cause, so that's why they don't appear correctly. But for example, Sting has no height and weight, I think because they're created superstars. I'm not going to be able to go into full depth about everything that's been added into this amazing mod, because there are moves with new damage values, there are just entirely new moves that we're going to talk about shortly. But yeah, like entirely new moves, new damage values, reworked move sets, like the whole shebang. The game is completely reworked. Although it looks like SmackDown 2 in the back end when you're playing it, it feels like a different game. I genuinely came across this specifically when looking for a version of SmackDown that had the Big Show and Ken Shamrock in it. And then I just so happened to come across the Inspired patch, as it's called. So the Inspired patch is what this is. It's made by a guy called Inspired, I presume. And it's a whole, like, it's a big collaboration. It isn't just one person. As I said, there are many like tools and tutorials and resources from the community, from the game modding community, that isn't even just WWE. And as mentioned, you can get the full information online on their Patreon, on our YouTube channel as well. But to go a little bit more in depth here during this Royal Rumble, within this game save, you can even unlock everything from the get-go, right? So you get all the standard wrestlers, all the created parts, moves, entrances are all unlocked from the beginning in this mod. Even if we go through the list of features here, it says that there's even a finisher system upgrade somehow. I don't know how, but they were able to add in a second finisher slot for every single wrestler in the game, including create superstars. They've also added in an instant match skip, which is very cool. So in season mode especially, you know, those fighting bars, you didn't see it in my playthrough, but like if you played SmackDown 2 standard, you would have these like health bars that fight each other in season mode after every single match. It's very exhausting and it goes on forever. This mod removes that, just instantly skips the match so that you can see who wins like immediately, which makes season mode so much faster. There is also a call template hack as well, so if you do want to take one of these characters and change the way they look, you can actually go into create superstar and you can copy the way that these characters look, and you can mess around with some of the templates that are in there. It says here as well, you can also do match rule restrictions have been removed, so you can now enable and disable any rule for any match without limitations, i.e. you can enable KO and give up in things like cages or special referees or whatever else you want to do, so you can actually just create your own match essentially. I really appreciate this little fact here as well, that the Women's Championship has been replaced with the Southern Championship to account for the fact that most of the women in the game have been replaced with men. Apparently the Southern Championship is a real title that was defended in Memphis Championship Wrestling, which was a WWF developmental territory back in the 2000-2001, and its purpose was similar to the modern NXT Championship, which is very cool. I did not know that, so I've learned something today. Thank you very much. Inspired. But I mean, I have to say that that is just the tip of the iceberg here. That's just the standard. That is genuinely just the standard base features that are in this mod. If we go to the 1.4 full changelog, which, you know, again, link in description, you're going to see so many changes. Again, the base roster has been changed with the ways that I'd said. Bradshaw's skin color has been changed. It's not just Bradshaw, as I said, there's a lot of texture work on Dean Malenko, Eddie Guerrero, Jeff Jarrett, blah blah blah. Shawn Michaels especially. God. Oh, this is really cool. In season mode, the beauty contests have been renamed to Open Challenge and will now feature unknowns competing in 4-man matches. That's a really cool change, and that makes me want to play season mode with this mod. That's insane. There's a whole bunch of cost stuff in here, so if you love creating characters, like, there is so much here for you. I mean, the character creation in SmackDown 2 is pretty limited, but you can definitely tinker with some of the characters here if you want to create something really unique. So we haven't really talked about the moves, but it says here that 98 new moves have been added to the game, which is insane. One of the most impressive things about these moves is they aren't just created for SmackDown 2. These are moves that were from SmackDown 1, SmackDown Just Bring It, Shut Your Mouth, and Here Comes the Pain. And all of these moves have been added somehow without removing any other moves in the game. So these moves work in addendum to all the moves that were currently in SmackDown 2, but not only that, they are from other games. Not only are they from other games, they're motion captured. The fact that, like, SmackDown Here Comes the Pain has the most insane moves ever, and the fact that they're able to, like, port those moves back to SmackDown 2 and without overwriting anything, I just think is like the craziest thing ever. There's also a little bit of lower level animation information here about how they were able to do that, which involved basically rewriting the whole animation loading code with two major, like, chunks basically. One, they were able to make sure that the game only loads the necessary moves during matches, which I imagine probably doesn't help in a Royal Rumble match like this, because it means it's having to load so many matches. But also having to add support for 2 main animation archives. I'm assuming that would be like the SmackDown 2 archive and then the archive of the modded moves from the other games in there as well. There's also new animation reversals. Sorry, there's also new reversal animations for kicks, ground upper grapples, Irish whips, and they don't replace the old ones. They work with the new one, or work with the old ones rather. So 50% of the time you might end up seeing a new animation if you were to reverse or grapple from that position. There's new selling animations for certain attacks. They've reduced damage for certain, or they've reduced and increased damage values for reverses and standard grapples and stuff. There's added damage to table moves, so now if you do table finisher, or well, table moves that break the table, you'll be doing more damage to your character. More inverted moves have been assigned as detailed in the web link for the patch notes. I don't know what inverted moves is. I'd have to presume that the inverted moves are the same animations that are in the game already. They've just flipped them so that there's more like variety. Oh my god, there's even more going into it as well. Like it even says here there's like gameplay hacks, so you can get more starting weapons for the arenas 1, 2, 3. I'm assuming that is some of the backstage areas. You also get a barbed wire bat, which is awesome. Weapon damage has been increased across the board. It says it's not too drastic, but it should be noticeable, which is good because I don't think weapons did any damage in the original game. The overly simplistic chair model has now been overhauled with a much better looking chair model. There's a whole bunch of stat stuff that I'm not even going to go into because I don't know, I'm pretty stupid when it comes to that. AI controlled characters with an overall higher than 20 can now negate finisher damage once per match at the expense of their own finisher. I don't know how that works in gameplay. Does it just happen automatically? That's like a whole new feature as far as I'm aware. One of the things that haunted me in my playthrough of SmackDown 2 season mode is how people don't stay down for too long. I think it's a problem for the game, not just my season mode, but it says here that characters want to stay down longer after submission moves, ground grapples, and moves with pinning combinations. So there are situations where like, the character will just shoot right back up after a submission move for whatever, but apparently now they'll stay down for longer. Apparently the random number generator for generating Rumble entries in the exhibition mode has been completely rewritten, which is probably quite good because I don't think the RNG for the original Rumble was pretty good, but that probably takes into account a lot more of these special characters now. Technically speaking, with the match rule overhaul, you can also eliminate people in the Royal Rumble by pinfall or submission or KO if you really wanted to. So I suppose if you were to adjust the rules, maybe you could have like a finisher only or a KO only Royal Rumble, which is also crazy to think about. That's going to be it for most of the changes here. Let's just focus on the match. But I mean, the fact that there are just so many, like the fact that they're able to like port moves from future games, the fact that they're able to update the character models, the fact that they're able to adjust stats and rebalance basically the entire game, adding in new reversal animations, and again they're able to do all this without overwriting anything from the game. It's just insane. Dan Severn is going to be our number 30 here as he eliminates X-Pac, which means that our winner of this Royal Rumble is either going to be the British Bulldog or Dan Severn. Dan, by the way, legit badass. Like, oh, and he's got he's got a Dragon Lock kind of face hold. I don't know what to call that, a face hook. I don't know what that's called, but it wasn't enough to take out the Bulldog. I mean, there's no submissions in this Royal Rumble, but you think he would at least stay down a bit longer. Oh, a big spear from Severn. This game's at such a breakneck pace that, like, honestly, this match could basically end at any second. And oh, I thought Bulldog was going to eliminate Severn there. He was super close to it. And there we go, and there Bulldog has eliminated Severn. So Bulldog is your random Royal Rumble winner. I hope you got to see some of the really cool models in there as well while we were talking about all the different random features that are in this mod. As much as I genuinely want to talk about this mod forever and all the different features and just get into playing it, I really want you to do that. You really should. I'm encouraging you specifically to start playing this game. The link is in the bio down below the description. Again, it's entirely free. It plays in DuckStation. It's just fantastic. If you're going to play a SmackDown 2 mod, of all the SmackDown 2 mods, and there are many of them, this has to be hands down one of the best. With that being said, that is going to be us for today. I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope you are going to try it in the Inspired patch, and if you don't, that's okay, because I want to play more of it, so I'm going to play more of it on the channel. If you do want to see more Inspired Patch on the channel, then you're going to have to subscribe, comment, like, and all that malarkey to make sure that through your little data, that I get told that I should be playing more of this. With that being said, thank you so much for watching. Hope you have a great day. Bye for now.